If you are over 60 years old and you drink this one thing every single day, I need you to stop and listen to me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to tell you could genuinely save your kidneys and maybe even your life. There is a drink sitting in almost every refrigerator in almost every home, a drink that feels completely harmless, a drink that people have been enjoying for decades without a second thought, and it is silently, quietly, relentlessly destroying your kidneys from the inside out. The most frightening part is not how dangerous this drink is. The most frightening part is how invisible the damage is. Your kidneys do not have pain receptors the way your stomach or your head does. They don't scream when they're in trouble. They don't send you a warning text message. They simply, silently start to fail, and by the time you feel anything at all, doctors are often telling patients that 60, 70, sometimes even 80% of kidney function is already gone. That is not a scare tactic. That is a medical reality that nephrologists, kidney specialists, see every single day in their clinics. And the tragedy is, in almost every case, it was preventable. In this video, I am going to walk you through exactly what this drink is, the 4 specific mechanisms by which it damages aging kidneys, 3 real patient stories that illustrate exactly how this plays out in everyday life, a simple self-test you can do right now, sitting exactly where you are, and finally, a complete step-by-step plan to protect your kidneys starting today. Stay with me until the very end, because the last section of this video contains the single most important habit that nephrologists wish every senior knew. Let's begin. Before I tell you what this drink is, I want you to understand just for a moment what your kidneys actually do, because most people walk around for decades without ever thinking about these 2 small, bean-shaped organs tucked under your rib cage. Your kidneys filter your entire blood supply roughly 40 times a day. Every single day, they process about 200 quarts of blood, removing waste, balancing your body's fluids, regulating your blood pressure, activating vitamin D for your bones, and producing a hormone that tells your bone marrow to make red blood cells. When your kidneys are healthy, you don't notice any of this. It happens silently, in the background, like a factory running perfectly. But when your kidneys start to fail, that entire system starts to break down piece by piece. Waste builds up in your blood. Fluid builds up in your legs and lungs. Your blood pressure becomes harder to control. You become anemic. Your bones become weaker. And in the most severe cases, patients end up needing dialysis, sitting connected to a machine for 4 hours, 3 times a week, for the rest of their lives, simply to do what their own kidneys used to do for free. I say all of this not to frighten you, but because I want you to understand exactly what is at stake when we talk about a habit that seems as small and as innocent as a can of soda. Let me introduce you to Robert. Robert was 67 years old, a retired accountant from a small town in Ohio. Robert was, by every measure, a health-conscious man. He walked 2 miles every single morning with his wife. He had quit smoking decades earlier. He watched his cholesterol. He went to his annual physical without fail. If you met Robert, you would have described him as the picture of a healthy retiree. But Robert had one habit that he never once thought to mention to his doctor, because it never occurred to him that it mattered. With every single meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Robert drank a can of cola. Not water, not tea. A can of cola. "It helps me digest my food," he used to tell his wife. He had been doing this for over 30 years. On top of that, Robert had mild high blood pressure, for which his doctor had prescribed a daily medication. And every single morning, Robert took that blood pressure pill with a sip of his morning soda, simply because that's what was already in his hand. For years, nothing seemed wrong. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, things began to shift. Robert started feeling tired in a way that sleep didn't fix. He noticed his ankles were a little puffy by the end of the day, though they looked normal again by morning. He started waking up 2, sometimes 3 times a night to use the bathroom, which he blamed entirely on getting older. His wife noticed he seemed to be losing his appetite, and that he complained of a strange itchiness on his arms and legs that no cream seemed to help. Robert dismissed every single one of these signs as ordinary aging. Almost every senior does. It was only when Robert went in for what he thought was a routine physical that his doctor ordered a blood test that included kidney markers. The results were sobering. Robert's estimated glomerular filtration rate, a measure of how well the kidneys are filtering blood, which we will explain in detail shortly, had dropped to 40% of what it should be for a man his age. His doctor sat him down and asked pointed questions about his daily habits. When Robert mentioned the soda and mentioned taking his blood pressure pill with it every morning, his doctor didn't hesitate. "Robert," he said, "this soda habit, especially combined with taking your medication with it, has very likely played a significant role in the decline we're seeing in your kidney function." Robert was stunned. In his mind, soda was just a drink. He had never once connected it to his kidneys. Robert's story is not unique. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 71-year-old widow living in Florida. Margaret had type 2 diabetes, which she had managed reasonably well for over a decade with medication and diet. But Margaret had a particular weakness for what she called her afternoon treat, a large glass of iced soda every day around 3 p.m., alongside her favorite snack. She knew soda had sugar in it, and she tried to compensate by cutting sugar elsewhere in her diet, believing this balanced things out. What Margaret didn't fully understand is that it isn't just about total sugar intake in a vague, general sense. It's about how quickly sugar hits your bloodstream and how often you subject your kidneys to that spike. Liquid sugar, the kind found in soda, is absorbed almost instantly, causing a sharp spike in blood glucose that is very different from the slower rise you get from eating solid food. For someone who already has diabetes, this kind of daily sugar spike is like repeatedly hitting the kidney's delicate filtering units, called nephrons, with a wave of pressure they were never designed to handle repeatedly, day after day, year after year. Margaret began to notice foamy urine, something she almost mentioned to her doctor and then forgot about because it seemed too embarrassing and too minor to bring up. It was actually a significant sign. Foamy or bubbly urine can indicate protein leaking into the urine, which is one of the earliest detectable signs of kidney damage. By the time Margaret's kidney function was formally tested, she had already progressed to what doctors call stage 3 chronic kidney disease. Her nephrologist explained to her that diabetes combined with a daily habit of sugary soda had likely accelerated her kidney decline far faster than diabetes alone would have. And then there is Harold, 74, from Texas, whose story is perhaps the most eye-opening of all three, because Harold didn't have diabetes and didn't have high blood pressure. Harold considered himself the healthiest of his friend group, but Harold had one habit that even his own doctor initially overlooked. He drank almost no water at all. Instead, nearly all of his daily fluid intake came from soda. He simply preferred the taste and had never liked the taste of plain water since childhood. What Harold didn't realize is that soda doesn't hydrate the body the way water does. The combination of caffeine, in the case of colas, and high sugar content actually has a mild diuretic-like effect, meaning it can increase urine output relative to plain water, while providing none of the pure hydration your kidneys need to properly flush toxins and waste products out of your bloodstream. Over years, Harold's kidneys were operating in what specialists sometimes describe as a state of chronic low-grade dehydration, forcing them to work harder with less fluid to filter the same amount of waste. When Harold finally had blood work done after complaining of persistent fatigue, his creatinine levels, a key marker of kidney function that we'll explain shortly, were elevated well beyond the normal range for his age. 3 different men and women, 3 different underlying health situations, one with high blood pressure, one with diabetes, one with neither, and yet all 3 arrived at the same destination: measurable, significant kidney decline, with the same common thread running through every single case: a daily habit of drinking soda that none of them had ever considered a health risk. So let's break this down properly, mechanism by mechanism, so you understand exactly why this happens, not just that it happens. Mechanism number 1 is phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid is what gives cola-type sodas that sharp, tangy bite. It's added specifically for flavor and to help preserve the drink. But phosphoric acid significantly raises the level of phosphorus in your bloodstream. In a young, healthy person, kidneys filter out excess phosphorus without any issue at all. But kidney filtering capacity naturally declines with age. Even in people who have no diagnosed kidney disease at all, filtration rate tends to gradually decrease after age 40, and that decline accelerates further after 60. So the same amount of phosphoric acid that a 30-year-old's kidneys handle easily becomes a genuine burden for a 65 or 70-year-old's kidneys. Over years, elevated phosphorus levels have been linked not only to kidney strain, but also to cardiovascular calcification, meaning calcium deposits building up in blood vessels, which is part of why chronic soda consumption has been studied in relation to both kidney and heart health in aging populations. Mechanism number 2 is the sheer sugar load. A single 12-ounce can of regular soda typically contains somewhere around 39 grams of sugar. That's roughly 10 teaspoons of sugar in one can. When you drink that much sugar in liquid form, it enters your bloodstream far faster than sugar from solid food, because there's no fiber, no fat, and no protein slowing down digestion. This creates a sharp glucose spike. For seniors who have diabetes or prediabetes, and it's worth noting that prediabetes affects a very large percentage of adults over 60, many of whom don't even know they have it, repeated daily glucose spikes place enormous stress on the tiny blood vessels inside the kidney's filtering units. This is precisely why diabetes is consistently identified as the leading cause of kidney failure in the developed world. A daily soda habit, layered on top of any existing blood sugar issues, accelerates that damage considerably. Mechanism number 3 is what I call the dehydration trap. Many people, including many seniors, genuinely believe that any liquid counts as hydration, and that a can of soda is just as good as a glass of water for keeping the body hydrated. This is a myth. The combination of caffeine and high sugar concentration in most sodas means your body doesn't retain that fluid as efficiently as it does plain water. Your kidneys need adequate water to properly dilute and flush out waste products like urea and creatinine. When soda replaces water as someone's primary fluid source, as it did for Harold, kidneys are essentially forced to filter waste with less available fluid, which increases the concentration of waste products in the blood and puts sustained extra strain on kidney tissue over time. Mechanism number 4, and this one is especially important for anyone over 60, is medication interaction. The majority of people over 60 are on at least one daily medication for blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, or heart conditions. Many of these medications are themselves processed through the kidneys. When soda is consumed alongside these medications regularly, as both Robert and Margaret did without realizing it, two things can happen. First, the phosphorus, sugar, and acidity in the soda can subtly interfere with how efficiently the kidneys process and clear the medication itself. Second, and just as important, many seniors don't even realize that their combined daily intake, medication plus a sugary, phosphorus-heavy drink, adds up to a level of kidney stress that neither factor alone would cause. It's the combination, repeated daily for years, that quietly tips the scale from kidneys under mild strain to kidneys in genuine decline. I want to pause here and explain something important. Why does age 60 specifically seem to be such a turning point? It comes down to a concept called kidney reserve. When you're young, your kidneys have significant reserve capacity, meaning even if a portion of your kidney function is under strain, there's enough spare capacity that you'll never notice a thing. But kidney function naturally, gradually declines as part of normal aging, generally starting somewhere in your 30s or 40s and continuing steadily from there. By the time most people reach their 60s, that reserve capacity has shrunk considerably. This doesn't mean your kidneys are diseased. It simply means they have far less spare capacity to absorb additional daily stress from things like excess sugar, excess phosphorus, chronic mild dehydration, or medication interactions. This is exactly why a habit someone might have had for 30 or 40 years without any apparent problem can suddenly start showing consequences after 60. It's not that the drink suddenly became more dangerous, it's that the kidney's margin for error has quietly shrunk with age, while the daily habit stayed exactly the same. Now, I promised you a simple self-test, and I want you to actually pay attention here, because this takes less than a minute and could genuinely catch a problem early. I want you to ask yourself these 5 questions honestly right now. Question 1. When you wake up in the morning, do you notice puffiness under your eyes or swelling around your ankles or feet that tends to improve as the day goes on? Question 2. Are you waking up more than twice during the night specifically to use the bathroom in a way that's become a regular pattern rather than an occasional thing? Question 3. Do you feel persistently tired or foggy even after a full night's sleep in a way that doesn't seem to have an obvious explanation? Question 4. When you look at your urine, does it appear noticeably foamy or bubbly or unusually dark more often than not? Question 5. Do you experience unexplained itching on your skin, particularly on your arms, legs, or back, without any rash or obvious skin condition? If you answered yes to 2 or more of these questions, I want to be very clear with you. This does not mean you definitely have kidney disease. but it does mean these are exactly the kinds of early warning signs that nephrologists specifically ask about, because they are often the very first subtle clues that kidney function may be declining. The right next step is simple and completely non-invasive. Ask your doctor for 2 basic blood and urine tests: a serum creatinine test combined with an estimated GFR, or glomerular filtration rate, and a urine test for protein, sometimes called a urine albumin test. These 2 tests together give a remarkably clear picture of kidney health, and they are standard, inexpensive, and available at essentially any laboratory. Before I give you the solution plan, I want to address a few common myths I hear all the time, because I know some of you watching are already thinking of exceptions. Myth number 1: diet soda is fine because it doesn't have sugar. While it's true that diet soda removes the sugar issue, most diet sodas still contain phosphoric acid, and some studies have specifically observed associations between diet soda consumption and kidney function decline, independent of sugar content. So switching to diet soda solves one problem, but doesn't fully solve the phosphoric acid problem. Myth number 2: I only drink 1 can a day, so it's not a big deal. The issue with kidney damage from any chronic daily habit isn't about a single day. It's about cumulative exposure over years and even decades. 1 can a day, every day, for 20 years adds up to over 7,000 cans. It's the relentless daily repetition, not any single serving, that matters. Myth number 3: if something was wrong, I'd feel it. As I mentioned earlier, this is precisely the danger of kidney disease. It is famously silent in its early and even moderate stages. Studies have consistently shown that a large percentage of people with reduced kidney function are completely unaware of it until it becomes advanced. This is exactly why proactive testing matters so much more than waiting for symptoms. Now let's talk about exactly what you can do, starting today, to protect your kidneys. Step 1. If quitting soda entirely feels unrealistic right now, start with the single most important change. Never take your medication with soda. Always take pills with plain water. This alone removes a significant portion of the compounded risk. Step 2. Try replacing your usual soda with a glass of warm water with fresh lemon, first thing in the morning. This isn't a magic cure, but it supports gentle kidney flushing and helps you build a new morning habit that doesn't involve reaching for a can. Step 3. Pay attention to your sodium intake overall, not just from soda. Processed foods, canned soups, and salty snacks add up quickly, and excess sodium places a very similar burden on kidney function as excess phosphorus does. Step 4. Aim for 6 to 8 glasses of plain water throughout the day. If you have a heart condition or kidney condition where your doctor has specifically told you to limit fluids, follow your doctor's specific guidance rather than this general recommendation. But for the average senior without such restrictions, adequate water intake is one of the simplest, most protective habits available. Step 5, and this is the one I consider most important of all. If you are over 60, get a kidney function test, creatinine and eGFR, along with a urine protein test, at least once a year, even if you feel completely fine. This single habit is what would have caught Robert's, Margaret's, and Harold's kidney decline years earlier, at a stage when it's often still possible to slow or even partially reverse the damage through lifestyle changes alone before it progresses to something requiring more serious medical intervention. Your kidneys have worked for you silently, every single day, for 60, 70, 80 years, without ever once complaining, without ever once demanding your attention. They deserve a little bit of that attention back. I'm not asking you to eliminate every small pleasure from your life overnight. I'm asking you to look honestly at this one habit, understand what it's really doing, and make one small, deliberate change starting today. If you found this video helpful, please share it with the person in your life who still reaches for a can of soda with every meal, the way Robert did for 30 years without knowing. It might be exactly the information that helps them avoid the same path. If you're new here, consider subscribing, because every week I break down exactly this kind of practical, science-backed health information specifically for people over 60. No scare tactics, no miracle cures, just the facts you actually need to protect your health. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.